Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson. I'm joined by the Mighty Joe Yeager. Well, Mighty Joe, we started back these mailbags on campus. Let's doing it together again, and I think it went great last week. And I think our fellas, our people on the site, they agree because we received a lot of really good questions this week. So many that I didn't want to put them all in one video. I'm going to do a second auxiliary mailbag answering some of the questions we don't get to in this video. So if you're looking for, hey, why didn't you answer my question? Look for that in written form on the board coming up soon this weekend. But I did pick some questions for us to answer, Mighty Joe. We'll start with TWLDS Raider, who wants to know our thoughts on Texas Tech's hoops inbounds problems. And by the way, before, I really want to get your input, but I thought they did better on a couple of occasions against TCU than they have for most of the season.
Actually, McCaslin talked about this a little bit against Kansas State and Arizona.
Yeah.
What he said was that they punted on it, basically.
Yeah.
They basically did not even try to run actions to score off of inbounds because if you looked at the film of these guys, they were turning people over more than anybody was getting any scores or getting shots off on inbounds play. Yeah. So it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to try to force something in there and get turnovers. I mean, turnovers are costly in basketball. Yeah. Not as much as football, but still pretty bad. So, I think that's what was going on there. They had issues inbounding the ball against Oklahoma State, against that full court press. Remember, late in the game?
Yeah.
Barely kind of scraped by from the skin of their teeth there towards the end. It was pretty shaky looking.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised, by the way, that TCU didn't try that last night.
Yeah.
I mean, when the game was up 8 with 3 to play or something like that, I'm surprised they didn't just bring the pressure and try to do what Oklahoma State almost successfely did.
Yeah.
But they didn't, so we didn't have to see what Tech's press break was like. But again, I think the K-State and Arizona situations were just sort of specific to the teams that you were playing, and they just made a decision that they weren't going to force anything.
Well, I'm not going to lie on that. Obviously, this is a well-coached team, but that drove me crazy. The fact that, like you said, they punted, and that they were just giving that up because they're not only has inbound plays been a problem on offense, but on defense. Really, even some of the lesser teams, some of those defensive lapses where our teams were getting wide open threes or even layups in some cases, and that has to be corrected because that'll get you beat in some of these really close Big 12 games against good opponents. So I think it looked a little better against TCU. Hopefully that will continue. Next question comes from TTU Braves Rock, who wants to know what's our top 5 charcuterie. I don't know if you eat a lot of charcuterie.
Oh yeah.
We do at our house as well.
Yeah.
What are your top 5 charcuterie items?
Man, I could go anywhere with this because that's right in my wheelhouse. I'll just say this: that one of the things that I treat myself to every Christmas season is I will order like some super good cheese and sausage from like iGourmet or something called the Formaggio Kitchen, which is up in like Cambridge, Massachusetts, and there's some of this really exotic stuff. Like 4 or 5 or 6 different things. Have that stuff shipped in and then enjoy it.
What are they?
Well, I mean,
sausage. What kind of cheese?
I mean, you're talking about stuff that I can't even pronounce for the most part.
Wow.
I mean, it's not like we're talking about cheddar or Swiss and Gouda or anything like that. This is it just varies from one year to the next. I like blue cheese a lot. To be perfectly honest, and that's either people love it or they hate it. Right. I tend to like it very much. I mean, of course, there's Stilton, Roquefort. Those are probably the most famous great things. Just all sorts of stuff like that. Really.
Yeah, I also like to throw a fruit in there, whether it be grapes or strawberries.
Or maybe just apples.
Yeah, apples. Just some kind of sweet kick. Yep. The meat and cheese and everything. And, to me, you don't have to have crackers in there, but this is like the ends of the spectrum. Him being all fancy Yankee stuff he gets shipped in we can't pronounce. Remember those like Lunchables? If you're around my age, you take to lunch and everything. These are like grown-up Lunchables I look at. So I don't mind. Like I like having the cracker in there with salami, some kind of sausage, even pepperoni. I'll do. The cheeses, they do matter, man. What kind of cheese you get, but I just, especially stinky cheese, like you probably maybe do. that's not for me. That's a little too much. But everything else, I'm in on. But I do think having at least one fruit, if not two, in the mix. And I know that doesn't sound like big bad man or whatever, but it's something for the palate that kind of kicks it back to like the complement of all of them, right, Joe?
Yeah. Now, just one quick thing, in case I lose my Texas man card here or anything like that. I just want to say that I've also been known to make a meal out of a sleeve of saltine crackers and some red wax cheddar cheese and a tall glass of ice cold whole milk. Just
There
that.
you go.
Man, I could go for that right now.
I think we're hungry right now. We have lunch after this
lunch,
video,
yep.
so
Yeah.
man, asking us food
Let's go
questions
grab
gets
some
us
Chicago
going. Yep.
charcuterie. Yep.
Point one wants to know, down by 1, Texas Tech basketball, with the ball, 10 seconds remaining. Who do you want taking the shot? I think this is a good question.
Yeah, it is. There was a time not so long ago I would have said definitely Darian Williams,
Yep.
but it's right at this point. I think Toppin has got to touch the ball.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he necessarily has to shoot it, but he's got to get it in there and have an opportunity to do something with it. If a double doesn't come, you probably want him putting it up. If not, kick it back out to find somebody, which they were doing against TCU last night a lot. Yeah, he's your most talented offensive threat, I believe, right now. And that's the guy who I would want. But now with 10 seconds left, you got to work fast.
Yeah.
You can't dump it in there and have him just waiting and waiting and waiting for somebody to come open. You got to move quick.
I like that. And Darian Williams would be a good option. And he has been. He's missed a couple of shots late where he got good looks, but he created those looks with his offensive ability. He also took over the game at Utah when it was back and forth. And we didn't really know how good this team was going to be. And that started this streak where Tech's only lost one, out of 9 or something like that, 1 out of 8. In overtime against Iowa State, and he took over and made some big buckets late. So he's capable.
Yes.
But as of right now, I'm going to go a different route because of what you said, like throwing it down on the post with 10 seconds. That's kind of sketchy. Double kick out, and somebody's got to throw up a 4 shot. So off the, I mean, it's a good option, but just to go a different route, Chance McMillan, a lead offensive player. He can score. He can beat his man off the dribble. He can drive. Obviously, he's a good jump shooter, good three-point shooter. And then another option is Elijah Hawkins. He may be the best at making difficult shots on the team. How many times when the games or when the possessions late in the shot clock has he had to force up some miracle shot? I think against Oklahoma State, he made some double clutch from just inside the three-point line at the top of the key. I was like, how do you make that? But then he missed a layup, wide open layup on the next possession. I was like, they got even. The basketball guys got even with him. But I think Hawkins is an option, I think, in so many iterations of Tech basketball. We've been like, heck yeah, I'll take Elijah Hawkins and take the last shot. But I think the point is they have a lot of options, and I just definitely think JT is a good one. All right, Mass Tech has a football question. Top 5 position battles this spring. That's a good one. I think backup running back, because I do think Quentin Joyner is going to be the starter. But Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey, that'll be interesting to watch, Monty Joe. Trying to think about some of the other ones. Offensive line at some of the tackle spots, because I think, and then tight end too. Yeah. JC and Terrence Carter, who they brought in, I think are kind of different players, both athletic receiver types, but they brought in Terrence Carter after a very productive season at Louisiana, and they're expecting him to play out of the slot a lot and to be a big target for them. But they also like JC Miller. They like him on offense, on defense. And I can say, seeing him in person in practice, like he's one of the guys out of the whole roster where you look at like, man, what a freak athlete. So I get it. And he made some nice plays at tight end last year. Cornerback, is that one for you? Go ahead.
I was just about to just throw that in there. You figure Marion Horn is probably pretty solid to start at one corner. But then probably, all right, I see you kind of, but
he's in the mix.
Yeah, but what about the other corner? If Marion Horn starts, then looks to me the other corner is kind of up for the grabs a little bit. There's different options there.
I really like Balfour. I forgot his name. There's so many new guys. I had it, but I forgot his name off the top of my head right now. But the dude from Mississippi State was one of the top corners in the SEC, which is a mouthful. So, I mean, getting those two guys in the mix with Marion Horn. You have a couple other dudes. You brought the guy in from UTEP as well. So I think that's going to be a really interesting cornerback battle. But I think, they didn't bring the dude over from Mississippi State for him to not start. Marion Horn was sneaky good late in the season. Yeah. He didn't make a lot of big plays, but he didn't get burnt a ton. It was that other cornerback spot or slot at times, when some guys weren't healthy, when Tech got injured. So they brought in depth, but it's going to be interesting to see that position battle. And then I'm going to say along the defensive line and maybe even an edge, you brought in, again, a bunch of players. Height is one dude, an edge rusher, is going to be going against some of these dudes who were hurt, like the Dylan Spencers and Joseph Adedere. How healthy are they? Will there, be a big-time position battle there? So that'll be something to watch. I think there's going to be a lot. I mean, with all this new blood, some guys coming back too, I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting position battles this spring and really playing out all the way till the season kicks off. So, but there's depth, and there's veteran depth. I think that's the most important thing. All right. Tech Freak wants to know, Mighty Joe, what was our first job?
Well, boy, I got to go way, way back. I was a door-to-door walnut salesman.
Oh, wow.
You probably knew that. When I was...
Did I? I don't know if I've ever heard this.
Well, I was 7 years old, and my grandma and grandpa had a couple of great big American walnut trees. All right? And if you don't know about American walnuts, they're basically inedible. I mean, they're hard little black marbles, and they hardly have any meat in them or anything like that. They're almost worthless. But my little 7-year-old self, and I got a couple of big old sacks, filled them up with these walnuts, took them home. The next day I said, Mom, I'm going to go sell these walnuts. And she goes, Joey, there's nobody who's going to buy those things. Well, me and a couple of my friends went door to door, and that was the best bank I made probably until I was about 23 years old.
Y'all must have been cute, or you're just that good of a natural salesman.
I missed my calling. I should have been a walnut salesman the rest of my life.
I wonder if you do as good now. Not being it's hard to look at a cute little 7-year-old and I'd be like, nope.
They slam the door in my face and call the law, most likely.
Right. For me, the first W-2 job was working on docks, warehouse docks, unloading those big trailers, and it was in the summer, so it was hot. I was not ready to be in control of anything and think critically too much, that's for sure, as a teenager. But I was in shape and I could lift heavy stuff. So that, and that was good. That was like an extra way to stay in shape before football season started off. But before that, kind of like what you're talking about as a little kid, me and a buddy in the neighborhood went around door to door and were raking leads for folks. And, we actually made some pretty good money doing that too. Nowadays, I can't imagine my son allowing him to go door to door to our neighborhood. Sure. And not that I live in a bad neighborhood, but you just don't trust folks that much anymore. I don't know, right or wrong, if people are worse than they were before. We just know more, and how can you allow it? But it's a different era for sure. Tech Freaks was he worked at a sandwich shop. Is what he said. Next question comes from Elder Texan 79. This is another good one. He says, excluding Houston, which is obvious, what are the two most difficult remaining games for Texas Tech basketball?
Well, I mean, I've got to go with the obvious here. I mean, at Arizona, is going to be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you beat those guys by 16 in Lubbock. That's amazing. That's their only conference loss.
Yeah, in Big 12.
But other than that, man, they've just been killing it. And particularly at home. I mean, that's a tough environment. The McHale Center holds 13 to 14,000 people, and it's a rowdy place. Yeah. They're going to be out for blood after losing in Lubbock. So,
did you see that halftime shot or half-court shot?
Oh, Caleb Love.
Yeah. That was amazing.
That was incredible. Yeah. And so, that's a no-brainer, man. That's going to be a really major challenge there. And then, I'm sorry, but you still have to go with Kansas, I think. At Kansas, I mean, Kansas is down a little bit. They're not as good as people thought they were going to be. This is the second year in a row, by the way, that's happened. That Kansas isn't as good as people thought they were going to be. But still, it's Kansas. Yeah. It's at the Fog, and Tech has only won there once, ever.
That 2019, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or it may have been 2018. I think it may have lost in 2019, won 2018. Now, with Mark Adams, his first season, Tech lost in overtime. Babaji hit the three to send it into OT. It's coming back, and it hurts. So, enough with that. But, anytime you go to Kansas, no matter what the situation is, it's going to be a major challenge.
They get the benefit of the doubt of the refs.
Yeah.
And it's weird what kind of like Kansas is usually good. They have great talent, and they've created that whole atmosphere for where they get the advantage of the refs. I'd like to see Texas Tech start getting that benefit. At least, I'm not saying to the degree that Kansas does, but maybe a little better than that. And I'm not saying, and I'm not a big ref guy, but it's clear, and this is something in basketball, when you go on the road in conference, you have to deal with the rowdy crowd and the refs feeling that pressure, and so 50-50 calls are going to go to the home team. I get it, but Kansas does seem to be to a ridiculous amount that way. Like they get some
kind of like Texas in football.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is. So you have to overcome that as well.
Yes,
and I'd like to see Tech start getting some of those phantom calls or whatever. Riding Fearless, final question, by the way, says, is it a concern that Tech doesn't get to the free throw line often? When he asked this question, which was earlier in the week, he said they were about 260th in the country in terms of getting to the line. What do you think, Mike?
That's a good question, too.
Yeah.
And, a big part of that is just the way Tech's offense is sort of set up and the personnel. I mean, it's a three-point shooting team.
Yeah.
You got guys out there jacking up threes. They're not going to draw fouls all that much. So I think that's a big part of it. But is it a concern? Well, I mean, maybe a little bit because, as I was discussing with you at another video, I believe an offense that has as many scoring options, different modes of attack, is the best thing to do. And part of that is getting to the free throw line.
Yeah.
Shooting free throws, driving in there, getting hacked, and then getting some freebies up there at the charity stripe. So, it's not a huge concern or anything like that. But, yeah, I think even McCaslin himself would probably like to see Texas Tech shooting a few more free throws.
The good thing is that when Tech does get there, it's a pretty dang good free throw shooting team,
yes.
Overall. So maybe that cancels it out a little bit. Or maybe that makes you want them to get to the line even more since they are a good free throw shooting team. But Mighty Joe, man, great stuff from you as always. And like I said, I'm going to have another mailbag in written form on Inside the Red Raiders coming up this weekend to answer some of the questions we didn't get to. But for now, thank you for watching, and until next time.